if you're a police officer, should you be able to shoot a man in the head? He's not done anything wrong. You've not found anything on him. Just shoot him in the head. Shoot him in the head through the windscreen. How about that? And then get away with it. Why not? Why not? Why should you be accountable? Why should you go by the same rules as anybody else? You're a police officer. Why are you even worried about it? Just shoot him in the bloody head. Shoot him in the head. You're a cop. You can do whatever you like. Why not? Why not? Why not? So we're back on Talk TV, and guess what? Talk TV is talking some stuff again, and a lot of it is about nationalism, pro-Zionism, and anti-woke agenda and immigration. Yet at the same time, they got Douglas Murray on there doing the feelies. And this is a perfect example of what they do. Let's have a listen.
Now, a Met police officer charged with murdering the rapper Chris Kaba has been named for the first time. He's Martin Blake, previously only referred to as NX121, but a judge...
So this murder cop shot Chris Kaba in the head. Sit. Murder cop. Because you know why it's called murder? Because Chris Kaba wasn't doing anything wrong at the time. He was in that sense, executed, just murdered, just, what are you doing wrong? We don't like the people you hang around with, the things you've done before. It's the end for you, mate. It's the end. We're going to pull you over, shoot you in the head. Do you think you want to live in a world like that? If you want to live in a world like that, want to risk it? Or do you want to hold to account people who decide to shoot people who haven't done anything wrong? Well, not if they're police. You've got to defend them. Well, honestly, if they're police, you've got to defend them all of the time. You've got to let them do it. Let them do it. We gotta have a few people murdered, don't we? We're gonna get police to have whatever they want, and they're the best in the world, aren't they? They're the best, most important.
Lifted reporting restrictions in the interest of open justice. Kaba was struck in the head by a single gunshot following a pursuit in Streatham, South London, back in September 2022. The trial is due to begin on October the 2nd after Blake pleaded not guilty to murder. Joining me now is Harry Tangi, former armed response officer and author. Harry.
Straight away, you've got the Union Jack that's in the police colours in the background, which lots of people see as a nationalist, racist symbol, that it takes away a nationalism and adds in this sort of like we're an authoritarian group of our own, and we're the only ones who are protecting this. And the police are supposed to be servants. Of course, you know who they're servants to, don't you? Servants to the crown, not the people.
Good afternoon to you. It's a tricky one. This is about open justice, as I think the phrase goes, versus the potential problems of naming an officer, and the fact that it's an officer is relevant to the anonymity that was being sought. Would that be fair?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was listening to Alex Dean, your political correspondent, who really says, well, it goes to a jury and then they've been found not guilty. The horror of a police officer, especially an armed response officer, dealing with the most violent gang members or whatever, generally day after day in their career, of going to prison, and the suicide rate in policing it.
So wait a minute, but going to prison for shooting someone who hadn't done anything wrong in the head. It's not just going to prison. Oh, the fear of this police officer going to prison. Why are you sending him to prison? Oh, well, he shot a guy in the head who wasn't doing anything wrong. Yeah, but that's murder. Shouldn't he be in prison? Oh no, the fear. Fear. Can you imagine what he'll feel?
It is. The slight difference that Alex has failed to appreciate is this is a police officer that we all ask to go out and do these jobs that we wouldn't necessarily want to do ourselves.
So, okay, if you didn't want, what I don't want to do as a job is to shoot an innocent man while he's in his car, who's not doing anything at that time. I don't care what he's done before. I don't want to do that job. I don't want to execute a man in the street. So luckily we got the police to do that for us, is what this officer here is saying.
And that is different from a random person in the street shooting someone dead, saying they had an excuse for it.
No, it's a police officer shooting someone in the head dead,
and then being charged for murder. And the concern of many armed officers out there who are dropping their weapons left, right, and centre, I can tell you, is that the level of responsibility is being shoved up a level because it's for the public interest.
It's for the public interest. What, not to be shot in the head in your car? I would say that's the most public interest you can get. I, as the public, am interested in not having a bullet hole in my brain put there by someone who's flinchy McGeezack on the trigger, can handle life, and shoots me in the head while I'm doing nothing wrong. We're talking about a man who has shot someone in the head. We're not talking about just, you know, an inert object that has done nothing wrong. This is someone who shot someone in the head who's not doing anything wrong.
Whereas decisions were being made by the CPS that there's no further action and there might be an inquest, for example. Now that we fear, we can't say for sure at this stage, is being pushed up to a court. And by all means, if they're innocent, the jury will let them off. The horror of that, sleepless nights, thinking you're going to prison as a police officer, let alone
for shooting someone in the head. Yeah, it must be terrible to fear going to prison for killing somebody. Poor murderers. Can you imagine? Poor Fred West. He knew he'd have to go to prison for murdering somebody. Load of people. Oh, poor guy. Poor guy. Poor murderers. Oh, can you imagine the pain they've got to go through when they murder someone innocently and then they've got to be punished for it? Poor murderer.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have thought, to be honest, Harry, that it would have even taken, I agree with you, by the way, that it wouldn't have even taken a legal brain to work out that, hang on a second, if you're an armed officer, you deal with some of the worst people in society. You're up against them. They have their own network of other people. You start naming a person, like that, you'll find out where they live. And even if that person, through good evidence, is found not guilty, then in the interim period, we know that this has happened before to individuals, but police officers sit in a particularly precarious place on this.
What, the police officers don't sit in a particularly precarious place. Police officers who have illegally shot an innocent man in the head sit in a precarious place with this. Once they've been named, after it's got to obviously go through some sort of system of justice for the murder of a man that is special. That's a special thing.
That it's not going to take much for somebody to go, this is the person that did this to my mate. We'll go round there and put their windows in, or, you know, we'll intimidate the kids on the way to school. I mean, there's really rather obvious reasons why
you shouldn't murder a man in the first place. There's pretty obvious reasons why you shouldn't shoot a man in the head without any legal right, precedence, anything happening that leads to that. You should not be in that situation in the first place. You should not be putting yourself in the problem isn't the murderer is going to have his family annoyed or harassed or his windows put through. It's that the murderer murdered. That's the problem, is the person who shot the innocent man in the head. Whether you like him or not, whether you like his music or not, whether you like his attitude, whether you've caught him with things before or he's been naughty in the past, at that moment in time, he was an innocent human being who you had pulled over, and you had a right to keep that person safe, and you shot him in the head, which is quite far away from keeping someone safe. It's as far away as you can get from keeping somebody safe.
Firstly, giving out somebody's name is going to be tricky, but giving out somebody's name who's a serving police officer is potentially very dangerous.
This has been worst question ever.
It's old legislation. Legislation is the right word. The judge is following. We all knew as firearms officers, and we were all told that there's no guarantee of anonymity, and there would have to be sort of a direct threat for.
So he's saying we're all told as police officers there's no, no assurance of anonymity. So they're told it, and they're told, obviously, that'll be as if it gets to a court situation if you shot someone who's innocent legally and he's got to go through a court process like this. So he's saying it there. They're warned, don't do this for this reason, because it can lead to a prosecution. Because you can't just kill anyone, I'm not sure if we've trained you on this. Maybe we might have told you at the start, then intermittently throughout the entire training, then at the end of your training, and then all of the rest throughout your career. We kept reiterating that you can't just shoot somebody in the head and kill them.
That to happen. Now, most policing, they do get threats. I got them all the time. And so this judge has decided that those threats aren't sufficient enough. And he's looked at the intelligence material, and it's not a real and immediate risk for the defendant and the family. And so to mitigate any risk, he's not going to release the address or the photograph. Well, this was fine before the internet, which is probably when the legislation was made.
Yep.
All you need to know is a person of that name down the street of yours, it's on social media, it's spread around, and before you know it, all those people who have got agendas and those activists and those people who really don't like the police, especially the armed police, and maybe organised crime people, have the address and the name of this individual.
This individual who shot someone illegally in the head. Now, if they just had the name of an individual, they wouldn't probably care. The problem is that he shot and killed a man, didn't he? He murdered a man. So, I mean, it's likely to be different. You are right.
And God forbid if he's got school kids at the school, they're going to be bullied. Your dad's a murderer. I've heard all this before with police officers.
Yeah.
It is the most, it needs updating. And if you want a reflection of how the reaction is out there, there's Telegraph article recently, 6 applications for armed response in the Met when they expected the usual 150 to 250. Consider also there's a natural 10% wastage every year of armed response. Nobody's applying, everyone's running. And we are a lot more in danger on our streets because of it, because we've cannibalized.
I gotta say that I think that the armed part of it might be that it's because you have more recruitment in the army and things being pushed to people being pushed towards the army because they are preparing for military conflicts abroad. So that might actually be a dip in stats. But whatever, I don't trust any of their stats. They're coppers. They lie all the time. I would say they seem like some of them are murderers.
Within the police, we've turned on our own. We haven't given them the support. It's been a one-sided argument from the start, and this is where we are. And we're going to have to deal with the repercussions of that.
Yeah, indeed, and of course it's a completely voluntary application to join the armed police, and the police do need
and you're
other
absolutely
officers.
right, Ian.
They need other officers,
yes, it's voluntary. And I joined the arms once. I was in for 23 years. I was an operational farms commander, like a team leader. I was farms tactics advisor. I was a VIP protection officer for all the royals and government officials.
So you were right in there, weren't you? Right, finger in the butt for all of the royals, all the officials. I'm the top guy. Yes, I'm the one they put out to speak. Yes. How many people did you murder? How many people? How many people did you kill when they weren't doing anything wrong? How many people? And if you did, should you have been punished?
And
well, you'll say no.
And it was a sense of pride, that teamwork. It's a cliche, but it's that teamwork. There was no other job in the world that was so responsible that you made the decision, and the training that it was so much training. Well, 14 initial weeks for just the most basic course.
And then at the end of it, you shoot someone in the head when they're not doing anything wrong. Then that could be potentially murder, couldn't it?
Before all the other stuff. So you're losing a lot of experience out there.
What a pasty.
But the refresher training, 4 full days, every 6 weeks.
That's what I'm talking about, all of the time.
I enjoyed it, but you were tested just as much of 80%
Then what are they doing? They're constantly telling you, don't shoot someone in the head when they're not doing anything wrong. Don't shoot someone in the head who's not doing anything wrong. Don't shoot someone in the head who's not doing anything wrong. Oh, shit.
Benefit was when not to shoot. And
course.
those scenarios were assessing you, so you could actually decide. And I'm slightly concerned now that an officer may wait just an extra second because they don't want to be charged with murder and they don't want their names released. And
Wait an extra second.
Am I going to hesitate?
He's worried. That's what he's concerned at. He's concerned that a policeman might hesitate about taking a life. That would have saved this man's life. Obviously, hesitations would save it, wouldn't they? Because nothing was going on. But he's worried that they'll hesitate. He wants to see more trigger happiness. He wants to see more trigger joy.
My colleague now going to get shot? Is a member of the public going to get shot? Am I going to get shot? This is a really serious situation and it needs to be dealt with.
Indeed. I suppose, Harry, the opposite side of this is that, well, there's lots of people who could argue that they are in a compromised position or they are an accelerated attraction to the wrong people. If we followed the logic, we wouldn't be naming anybody in courtrooms, and that is the reason why the press had an interest in naming this officer, because the precedent is so awful to think of having this snowballing anonymity effect, which could extend to all sorts of people.
But there's a very clear distinction. And this is why police officers should be treated as witnesses until there is clear evidence by the initial investigating officers that this officer, an officer has gone rogue, and this is completely out of the ordinary.
No,
when we've sent them,
you don't have to go rogue. You don't have to go rogue to murder a man. You just do it. It just can happen in the moment. You don't have to go rogue. Just you make the wrong decision and you murder a man.
Spontaneous incidents, time after time after time, day after day after day, and they make a decision. Now, in training, you then say, well, why did you consider that? Did you consider that? What about this? Why did that? That's in training.
Why did you shoot him in the head? Why did you shoot him in the head? Why did you shoot him in the head? They won't do that over and over again. Otherwise, the person won't get past the training. The fact is that there's not enough questions.
Thing is happening now. Go. This is happening. What's your reaction? And then you've got 5 years of careful analysis by the barristers. They've been ready to accept that, willing to accept that. But this at least have the protection of a decision being made early on, like it has been.
Wow.
And we don't know for sure with the Chris Kaba one, so we won't talk about that one specifically. But if you are charged...
But that's what we are talking about. We are talking about that. And the guy shot him dead when he's not doing anything wrong. He hasn't got weapons or anything like that. And you need to have law and order. You can't be part of law and order and say, okay, for you guys, but not for us. We're protected. We'll always have the most highest protection, so it doesn't end up like this. That's not what the public is going to accept. The public's not going to accept that.
At least give them the respect of anonymity, because, okay, well,
no,
it'll be past that argument because you won't have any armed response officers. And
Give the guy respect not to shoot him in the head. How about that? Give the guy the respect, the person, the human being, the guy shot in the head. Give him the respect not to shoot him in the head. Wow. These guys are they're lost in strange arguments.
They'll have to lower the requirements of those applicants and the abilities of that skill level, just as they have had to do with police recruitment, in order to get the numbers. Do we want that either?
It's a fair point to finish on. Listen, Harry, thank you.
It's a terrible interview.
Again, I'm sure Harry Tangi, former firearms officer and author, with us here on Talk TV.
Puff piece on Talk TV for the cops. Of course, Talk TV are dirty as hell, and Tangi was dirty too. They just don't care about us. They don't care about us. No, we should have special rules for us. Okay, you've just shot a man dead. Yes, that's why we're arguing for special rules. Why? Because otherwise you'll try him as a murderer. And can you imagine how bad he'd feel with the thought that he's going to have to go to prison for murder? He's a police officer. He shouldn't have to feel that sort of fear about going into prison for murder. But what if he's murdered someone? police officer. Police officers can't murder people. Like, share, subscribe, support if you can. Try not to murder anybody.
Young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.